addictive driving this car at speed. Absolutely love this car, love the GTS. Both phenomenal machines, and as I said, neither is inferior to the other. Hi, this is Raj from ML Sportscars. In this video I'm going to talk about two very exceptional models in the Porsche range, and that is the 981 series Caymans, particularly two of the flagship models. The one on my right, is a lovely Guards Red 981 GTS, produced in 2014. And then on my left, I've got a stunning racing yellow 2016 981 GT4. Both are exceptional cars. I'm not going to say which is better than the other because they're designed for very different purposes in mind, but it shows you the difference in how much you can make the same platform excel in different areas. So this GT4 is obviously more track based. It's got 6-speed manual, and it's got the 911 engine, the 3.8 with 385 horsepower. This is the 3.4 litre flat 6 that you'd find in the S and also the GTS, but this has a power kit, so it has around 10 to 15 horsepower more than a standard 981 Cayman S. It's got the 7-speed PDK, which is the optional box. It was available with a manual as well. And it produces somewhere in the region of 335 horsepower. And acceleration times and things are about the same, just over 4 seconds for both. Weight, this is a little bit lighter, but it has that little bit more power as well, a little bit more torque. But I'm not talking about the figures in this video. It's more about what are the purposes of each of these cars. So as I said, this one is a track-based car. This is more suited towards road driving, but can also be used on the track, and vice versa. So this one can be used on the road. Obviously, it's fully road legal. It's got all the necessary bits to make it safe on the road, such as airbags, traction control, ABS, that kind of thing. But it's got much more focus on the driving dynamics on the track. And I'll go through some of those differences that make it so good for the track, and I'll also go through some of the differences on this that make it so good for the road. So, and I will drive both as well. So I'm going to start with the GTS, which is a stunning Guards Red. Great classic colour for this car. The wheels are the optional, the turbo wheels, 911 turbo optional wheels, and it has the steel brake setup, whereas the GT4 has the optional PCCBs, so they're ceramic brakes, which are 30mm greater diameter at the front, so absolutely huge stopping surface on those. Things like creature comforts have been spec'd on this one, things like the rear wiper, and then on the inside you have the hardback sport seats plus, which are more suited towards road driving. They still have big bolsters, and the GTSs came no cost option as half Alcantara, half leather, as this one has. So you get the comfort and the grippiness of Alcantara, but you still get all of the leather bits. Heated seats, dual zone climate control is also spec'd in this one, sat nav, things like that. But as you can see, it's a very, very nice place to be and do lots of miles on the road. And I'll show you the front and rear boots. Now, these two cars are a bit of a crossover because there's the front boot. It's actually exactly the same as the front boot in the GT4. This one's been spec'd with a lithium battery, but that makes no difference to the inside of this one. Both have the additional sort of hard-wearing, durable boot floor liner, which is an option you can buy from Porsche. Now at the rear, you've got that 2 areas there to store luggage. And on the GT4, this is a club sport, so as well as having that lovely fixed rear wing, which has got optional longer uprights, so it makes it even more pronounced. Actually makes it easier to see through the rear view mirror with that taller wing because it doesn't sort of protrude in between where you want to see on through the rearview mirror in the middle there. With this being the Club Sport, it means it has the half roll cage fitted from the factory. So that means that space there is a little bit redundant compared to that lower section there. But other than that, practicality wise, there's not much in it in that sense. Now there is a bit of a crossover between these two because they're both fun summer cars, winter cars as well. You can take them out. I would say this one is sort of 80% designed for road driving and 20% track, and I'd say the GT4 is probably more suited towards the track, about the same. So 80% track, 20% road driving. I think you'd be really comfortable. Having said that, there are people that daily drive these and they absolutely love them. It's all horses for courses. It's what you are suited to and what you want to do with the car. If you like an extreme drive, if you like that sort of more connected suspension, and that direct feel, then the GT4 is the one for you. But I personally, if I was running it all year round, I wouldn't run it on these tyres, which are the Pilot Sport Cup 2s. I'd run it on something a bit more forgiving, so Michelin Pilot Sport 4Ss, if you're using it all year round in the wet as well, and cold. This one's got, again, as I said, it's got a lot of options. So it's got the same half Alcantara, but that is optional. If you didn't spec it, then you didn't get the leather on the top, and you didn't get Alcantara at the bottom. It was all just plastic, a bit like the Cayman S's that are the base model for the GTS that I've just shown you, the guard tread one. And this one's been spec with really nice things like Alcantara roof lining. Obviously, it's got the carbon bucket seats, the Porsche 918 seats. They're known, and they are so supportive. It's got the optional harnesses on both sides as well. Racing yellow belts, yellow stitching, carbon trims. Again, this is all optional. It was normally brushed silver. Seats, obviously, with the carbon seats, I don't think you could spec it with that dual zone climate control, but that was an option that many didn't have. Sport Chrono was also an option, but that adds actually something really great, which is called the Track Precision app, which allows you to use your phone to combine the video output from that or a GoPro with the telemetry as you're going around a track, and it will actually overlay the outline of the track, your progress, and it will store a whole load of driver dynamics going around the circuit. So braking input, throttle input, G-forces, speed, all kinds of stuff you can overlay onto your videos and analyze exactly your progress, compare your lap times sector by sector. So it's a really, and you can even put in reference laps as well. So that's a really nice addition. If you don't have one with Sport Chrono, then you kind of missing some of the sort of great parts of this car with being able to use it on track. But as I said, some people might be using this as an everyday driver. They might have the Sport Seats Plus, which came as standard on this car. They might not have the roll cage. Also has a fire extinguisher. Has the updated wheel. The 981 GT4s, even though they're based on the same platform, because they were released that a little bit later, they incorporated the later Gen 2 wheel, which I think looks really nice, especially with the Alcantara with the yellow 12 o'clock there. But as you can see, it's largely the same. So the button layout is very similar, but it does have different buttons. As standard, they all come with the Spiritual Sports exhaust. Even with Chrono, you didn't get Sport Plus, you just got Sport, and that basically has assisted downshifts. So it blips the throttle, which is really, really a powerful addition. Things like the embossed centre armrest and things you could spec in either car. Mats are all the same, but there's the fire extinguisher, which was part of the Club Sport pack. Straps for the door pulls, and you've got different mirrors as well. So you've got the Sport Design mirrors, which could be spec'd on a Cayman GTS as well. And the wheels are the lovely GT4 wheels, but these are finished in an aftermarket colour of Weiss Gold, which is a lovely Porsche sort of catalogue colour. On 997 GT3 RSs it was first introduced, I think, and it looks great, even with the contrast of yellow, racing yellow. That wing makes a huge difference to how the car looks, but you still have the twin exhaust output on both, even though they've got a different engine. Both have switchable sports exhaust. This one as an option, this one as standard. So this one's a bit lower, so it's about, I think it's supposed to be 30mm lower than other Cayman models, but I'm not sure if that takes into account cars with PASM, because cars with PASM are 10mm lower than standard Cayman. So the difference between these two might be 20mm, and you can see from the wheel arch gap maybe the difference. No, possibly not. Yeah, you can see, I would say it's about 20mm difference in the ride height, which again makes driving on roads with speed bumps and things that little bit less practical. I'll just show you the two in the same shot. So this, the Guards Red GTS will get on a lot more with speed bump roads, rough roads, that kind of thing. That's not to say it's impossible to navigate roads like that in this car, because you really can. In terms of technology, they have a lot of the same technology in terms of safety and things. This came with PTV, so it comes with the mechanical locking rear diff. This one comes with an open diff as standard. But again, it could be spec'd with PTV or PTV Plus, which is the electronic system of locking the rear end, the rear diff. And tail lights as well. Tail lights different, so this has got the darkened glass ones, and that one's got the red LEDs, which came as standard on Cayman GT4s. Different lower splitters as well. So that's the GTS style rear splitter, and as you can see, that one is even more effective at channeling air, as well as that sort of gurney flap under the rear spoiler there, versus this rear spoiler, which is the one that comes up at speed, or you can put it up manually like I just have for the video. At the front you've got grills, and you've got this cooling and aero system which drags air through here and out through the bonnet to improve the airflow. You've got the side intakes as well, which are actually, I think, the same shape as the ones on the GTS, but they've got grills on them rather than just being completely open to the air conditioning condensers. And I find that quite amusing, because the GT4 from the factory came with that mesh. If you have one of these cars under warranty with Porsche, potentially they will not like you having it under warranty with, say, aftermarket mesh grills, because they say it disrupts the airflow to the radiators which are behind the air conditioning condensers and across that center radiator. And a lot of people say, in their defense, your flagship GT4 has mesh grills, so it's not disrupting the airflow on that, so why would it disrupt the airflow on the GTS? But that's the way it is. They don't like things. Some dealers are better than others in terms of allowing things like that. But that's the sort of company rule, is don't modify things. This car's been massively modified, so it's got wheel shims, so that pushes the wheels out right to the extremity there, and the hubs as well. So the whole rear assembly is pushed out to give it more stability at high speed. As I said, it's got those wing risers, which are optional aftermarket ones. What else does it have? Oh, it has the top mounts at the front are off the 991 GT3 as well, to give it a little bit more feel and direct handling through corners. Now I'm going to take both out and explain a little bit more about how they drive. Not necessarily, again, as I said, not this one's better than this one or vice versa. It's purely just explaining how they drive on the road, how you feel, some of the experience of driving these cars on the road. Okay, so I'm in the road biased 981 Cayman GTS to start with. You can hear it purring away. The flat six is just absolutely a beautiful car to be seated in, be piloting, and be a passenger in. That's the other big benefit of the GTS, is it's more passenger friendly. I've got it in my favourite settings, which is just in sport mode with the sports exhaust enabled and the start-stop disabled. It's a bit annoying when you come up to a junction, it just switches itself off, and then you need to make a slightly quicker getaway than the car anticipates, so you have that hesitance where it's restarting, can miss an important gap, especially on a daily drive commuting. The Sport Seats Plus are fantastic at holding you in, and they're also great because you normally get people optioning the heated seats. I think most GTSs will have heated seats unless someone has the optional carbon seats, which are different to the GT4 carbon seats in design, but there was a carbon bucket seat option across the whole Cayman range. This car is plenty loud enough. It's quite raucous actually with the switchable sports exhaust, but it does make a difference when you switch it off. It does tone right down. It's still got a lot of tune to it, but it hasn't got the bass and the drone almost. It doesn't spit and cackle as well when you've got it disabled. But this car is, I mean, even just in normal mode, you can have it with the PDK, obviously not with the manual option version of the GTS. The PDK is a constantly adapting system, so if you've got a little bit more aggression on the brake and the accelerator, then it wakes up, it holds gears for longer, it changes quicker, no matter what mode you're in. So it's always tailoring to what it thinks your mood is behind the wheel. And as I said, I put it straight in sport mode. It's absolutely fantastic. Just such, there's suspension travel, but there's not too much suspension travel. It's quite supple over bumps, even with these 20-inch 911 turbo optional diamond cut wheels. It feels like it's got plenty of suspension travel. It doesn't crash over bumps. When you put it in manual mode, you have your gears exactly where you want them, at the touch of a button. That sounds absolutely beautiful around this corner. Spoiler's gone up. Just listen to that engine note. Hopefully you can hear it. I'm just using the mic on the GoPro for this segment. And this is such an exciting car behind the wheel. The Alcantara really does elevate how this feels in your hands. With that GTS package, having the Alcantara steering wheel, having the nice Alcantara PDK selector as well, really do elevate the driver experience in my opinion. And sort of, even if you've got the PDK, you still feel bizarrely a little bit more involved than if you had the leather equivalents, or if you had the non-sport design steering wheel. Definitely much more engaged with this sport design steering wheel with the full-size paddles. Each side in control of one direction of gear changes, the right hand one being up a gear, the left one being down a gear. This car's got the optional PASM rather than the fixed sport suspension, so again that suppleness is increased. But I've just enabled PASM and it definitely gets more. Feel more of the road. You feel like it's gripping the road a little bit more. It feels that little bit rawer, a little bit more honed in to the road surface with the PASM engaged. it makes quite a big difference actually. And this road isn't great because it's got odd canvas, it's got weird undulations and potholes, ridges in the road, but even then it's handling with such finesse that you don't notice. Tyres make a big difference as well. Having the right tyres, having tyres that are in date with plenty of life left in them, that haven't gone hard. Yes, they can have grip, but they can be, if they're 6 or 7 years old, then the rubber's gone, they won't have the grip, they won't warm up and grip the road in the same way that a tyre 2 or 3 years old will have. So that's something else to bear in mind. And also the right brand tyres. Different tyres have different advantages. Second gear and manual. Oh wow. These are great on track. The brakes do play a part though. This has got the steel brakes. They're decent. They're 330mm diameter at the front and 299 at the rear. I mean, it's night and day though, the braking performance of that GT4 versus this, because they've got an extra 8 centimeters of diameter at the front, and they're carbon brakes that are about half the weight of the equivalent size steels, and the rears are 9 centimeters bigger, 390mm versus 300mm at the rear. So huge amount of stopping power in that car as a result, but this is more than capable of fast road driving with these brakes. The brake setup it doesn't make you feel like it's inadequate whatsoever on the road. On the track, I think after a few laps you might be experiencing some sort of brake fade. Actually, I forgot to mention that on walking around the GT4 that was actually upgraded with braided lines as well. So again, and high performance brake fluid as well, so that car has been even more tuned for the track than even the standard GT4 is. Even a Club Sport, it's got a few trick bits that really sort of elevate it in terms of its performance on the track as well. And you can do a similar thing to a GTS. You can upgrade the brake setup. You can get one with carbon ceramics. I don't think they're the same size as the Cayman ones. They're the GT4 ones, but you can get a carbon brake setup for this car from the factory. You can upgrade to it. You can upgrade to bigger discs, I believe, on this car as well. So anything is possible, but from the factory, this car has got great brakes. They're just not as exceptional for track driving, which makes sense because this is the peak road bias version of the road version, and yeah, it just handles with such aplomb. It's got lovely creature comforts, like even just that rear wiper. If you're reversing out your drive on a misty, wet morning, you'll appreciate just clearing that rear screen to actually see where you're going. Obviously parking sensors, the GT4 doesn't have parking sensors front and rear on this car, and you can spec these up really nicely, but you can with the GT4, but these come with all of those creature comforts thrown in. And GT4s, in terms of things like heated seats and stuff, dual zone climate control, you have to add to the GT4 spec, and not, I would like to say around 50% don't have that kind of stuff. They're quite basically spec. They're not Club Sports, but they're not sort of luxury spec either. So you have to be a bit more careful when you're buying a GT4 to make sure it gets the right spec. But I just love driving these GTSs because most of my driving is obviously on the road, and they can be docile. It hasn't got a huge amount of drivetrain noise. One thing you'll notice on the GT4 section is that there is quite a noticeable drivetrain whine, which does vary from car to car, but they all do have a noisy drivetrain because it's built to have that. It's built to be rawer with less filtering. This is designed to be the roads, the car that you're comfortable driving on the roads, day in, day out, hours at a time. You could drive all day in this car and not get fed up with the sounds it makes. They've got great stereos as well. The highest spec stereo you could get in the GT4 was Sound Package Plus, or it was I think there's the 2-speaker option, which is obviously below that Sound Package Plus. This can obviously go all the way up to Burmeister. This car's got the Bose system, so it's 445 watts, so double the power of Sound Package Plus. So you get decent sound in this car to enjoy it every day, listen to your favourite music, have the digital radio on, that kind of thing. So just be aware that each has their own strengths. The GTS is clearly built out the box to be the better road car than the GT4 in terms of its overall experience behind the wheel, including just living with it, just maybe getting to and from work during the week, but then taking it for a good blast on a Saturday morning or Sunday morning when the roads are quiet. This is my favourite road, and it just drives fantastically. So now I'm going to hop into the GT4 and go through exactly how that drives and feels behind the wheel. Okay, just as the sun is setting, I'm back in a Cayman, this time the GT4. I'm fully strapped in with the harnesses to fully experience what it's like. And I've got myself strapped into these lovely bucket seats, the 918 carbon bucket seats, and they're in such a supportive angle. The last owner actually inserted some extra foam into the lower section to give it a bit more lumbar support, and it really does make it that little bit more comfortable, but they're just at the right angle to keep you where you need to be. You can obviously adjust the steering wheel up and down, in and out, just like on the road going GTS. I say road going, this is obviously road going, this is fully road legal, but it just feels that immediately you feel more focused on the drive by those small bits of strapping yourself in, if you want to, into the optional harnesses, into a carbon bucket seat which has got a fixed angle. You've got the manual gearbox, which plays a big part. Again, you could have that in the GTS as well, but you immediately feel that this isn't necessarily faster or more responsive, it's just the fact you've got that extra connection. With the car, with the road, everything is more connected. The brakes also take some getting used to. They are got a lot more immediate stopping power than the Steels. There's also a lot more drivetrain noise from the gearbox, from the running gear, making you have a bit more respect for the fact that this isn't just a road going car, it is a race car as well, a road going track car. So it's doing the auto blipping, which is just feels so second nature to let it do that. I do heel and toe as well, but with a system that's as good as this one, and you're on the road and you're not 100% into the drive, you can just let it do its thing, and it does an absolutely magical job at matching those gear changes on the downshifts. Just actually keeps the car more stable, heeling and towing, rev matching. There's less chance of destabilising the rear end on a corner when you're downshifting, if you're keeping that drivetrain power consistent. I hope that makes sense, but sending shockwaves through the drivetrain can destabilise the car, lead you to basically lose the rear end mid-corner, especially in the wet. Now this car also has, as I said, Pilot Sport Cup 2s, which on a day like this, temperature is, okay, it's not particularly warm, it's 13 degrees outside, but it's super dry. There are no issues with leaning on these tyres, but on a wet day with surface water, with leaves, you'd think twice about it. So that's one thing. If you were going to use it all year round, I'd put Pilot Sport 4S's on, and then you can enjoy it with a little bit extra security in the wet. Cup 2s are fantastic in the dry, pretty much unbeatable as a road tyre in my opinion for Porsches, but you can't use them in the same way you can a 4S when it gets a bit wet. It's a bit slippery, a bit colder than what it is today. Approaching freezing, forget about it. They'll never heat up to where you need them to be leaning on them in high-speed corners. I mean, this car, I don't need to say how amazing it is, because it's just every little input is translated through the steering, the throttle as well, the sound of the engine. It's less theatrical, I would say, almost, than the GTS in terms of its spitting and cackling. It still does it, but it's more of a natural sound. The GTS feels a little bit synthesized in how it does it compared to this. This is much more like it is literally the engine causing those, changing back pressure to cause the exhaust to spit and cackle. You hear more of the drivetrain and the engine than you do of the exhaust, whereas the GTS is the other way around. You definitely hear more of the exhaust than you do. The drivetrain's pretty much silent compared to this, and that's one thing to consider if you are getting one of these cars as an everyday car. Is, yes, it feels like you're driving something that's much more built for the racetrack, and that might really excite you, but over time, could you find it a little bit too much? I don't know. It's that, again, that's one for you to decide. I simply love it. I love track-based cars for the road, but I also love cars like the GTS, which handle everything with aplomb. To be honest with you, all of this, the bucket seats and things, some people don't get on with, especially as passengers, so you might want to consider, if you're going to be using it every day, to get one of these with the Sport Seats Plus rather than the bucket seats. That would be my only bit of advice in that area. I'm going to do some acceleration from standstill. It really picks up at around 5,000 RPM. It just absolutely flies. You hear the cam profile change. I think it's the Vero Cam Plus, which is kicking in at around 5,000 RPM, and then you get another surge forward. There's already a huge surge through the rev range, but that surge is another level of sort of feeling like it stepping up a gear in terms of its aggressiveness in engine timing. It just really feels like it wakes up and feels absolutely beautiful when it does it. Even when you're just pooting along, also it will do the rev matching as well. So you can immediately feel it means business, it wants some fun, and it's such a fun car to drive on the road. really love that sort of tactile feel of the gear change. Some people say that the gears are geared very long, and in all honesty they are, man. I mean, third gear, 2,500 RPM, 38 miles an hour. It will do, I think it will do around 90 in third. Second will do around 70, so it is geared quite long, and some people do change the gear ratios to suit it being, you change gears more, but it means it's always in that sweet spot. You don't basically just use second and third gear all the time. Absolutely love this car, love the GTS. Both phenomenal machines, and as I said, neither is inferior to the other. They both have their place in your garage if you want a special car for the weekends, or if you want an everyday car. Both can do that job. It's just whether you want more bias towards feeling like a track car or feeling more like a grown-up sports car that the GTS is. And that's where I'm going to leave this video, I think, just with that thought that don't rule out one over the other because you think that one is superior, higher up the range. They're both built exceptionally to do a fantastic job with you behind the wheel. Well, I hope you've enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching. Please do subscribe to my channel, and please do comment below if you have any thoughts. If you've owned one or owned both, please don't hesitate to comment, and I'll of course respond. And thank you for watching. Do one final fast bit. It is so addictive driving this car at speed. The brakes have got so much power, these PCCBs, but still so much feel as well. It's not just sensational. Absolutely sensational, and this is why I love Porsche.